Hello guys, welcome back. In this video, I'll be sharing how to texture paint this asset and then set up the lighting and rendering process in Maya Arnold and then composite this image, this model in the After Effects software. So the overall workflow has been shared. Please follow the whole video without skipping it and let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. Let's have a look on the model before we get into the Substance Painter. This is the model with the subdivision level of 1. So the wireframe looks like this, and I will also show you the UVs of this model. Okay, so if you could see, I have just arranged the paint layers on the bottom, the black colored elements on the top, and the metal here. Right now I am in the Substance Painter. To unleash the true potential of the procedural texturing in the Substance Painter, we need to bake the mesh maps here. For that, you need to just select the texture set settings, scroll down and then choose bake mesh maps there. And then you need to select all the textures what you have here and then choose the size. I'm choosing the 4096 and then hit bake selected textures. Once that is done, I can have a look on the textures by pressing B on the keyboard. So I've got the ambient occlusion. I press B again, curvature, position, thickness, normal, world space normal, okay, and ID. So I'm switching back to the materials here. Once we baked the mesh maps, let's create the paint layer for this asset. For that, I'm going to use the fill layer. That should be the first layer. And in this fill layer, I'll just go to the height section and then create a layers of fill. So the first is going to be the fill, which will have a 0.5 value of the height. And then I'll add one more fill layer, and in that I'm going to add a texture, which is going to be the Gaussian texture here, Gaussian spots 2. I'll be adding that texture, and then you could generally play with the balance here. Okay, you can use that. You have the noise parameters. You can increase the scale. So I'm increasing the scale all the way up, and then I'm going to put the opacity of this one to 1. So we have got that slight speckle on the model. Now I'll go to the base layer, and in the base layer I'm going to add a fill. So to keep a separation, maybe we can try using this way. So we will be using this layer only for the height, and we will create another fill layer which is going to work only for the color. In this color I'm going to create a fill, okay, or you can generally add a texture and then use it. So it's a very plain color, so I'll be using this color, which is going to be bluish like that. Let's add some smudges on this model. For that, I'm going to create a new fill layer. So this layer will have only the roughness attribute on, and you can make it look more glossy or rough as per the requirement. In that, let's add a fill layer, and in that fill layer we will be adding a texture from the grunges. Let me type fingerprints. Then you have this fingerprints texture. You can just add that onto your model, and then you can repeat this as per the requirement, and this will add that nice smudges over the model here. So let me explore different types of fingerprint textures what we have here. We can try any one of these textures. Once we pick the texture, we can select the layer, and we can generally reduce the opacity of that layer to reduce the contrast of this image. Keep it subtle as per the requirement. Once we are satisfied with the texture, I'm going to select all these 3 layers and press Ctrl G to group. Okay, so this is going to be our paint layer. Okay, and I'm going to select the materials here. Let's search for the smart materials, and then we have this metal called steel scratched or steel stain. Let me try both of them. This material looks good for me. So once it is there, I'm going to choose a black layer mask, and then I'm going to choose a generator, and in the generator I'm going to use this curvature, or maybe you can try anything which is metal edge wear and tear. Okay, so that should generally give that nice edge wear and tear. I can just go to the paint layer, and we have the color. I'm going to change this color to slightly more saturated, or give it a different color altogether, just for the sake of visibility. So this looks pretty good at this point of time. Okay, and also I'm going to add okay, we have this layer mask put on top of it. For this we can add a fill layer. Okay, I'm going to choose a fill layer. and I'll go to the procedurals, and then I'm going to type for scratch textures. So we have this scratch texture. I'm going to drop it on top of it, and then I'm going to repeat it 3 times, and then you should be able to see that nice scratches coming over the model. Let me put a higher number so that I could see more of these scratches coming here. I'll be selecting this and then just choosing different blending modes so that it will generally work together with our texture here. Okay, so let me choose this to normal and then put the metal edge wear on the top, and then let me add a layer here. So we have this layer tags. Let me have a look on the mask here, and then we see the scratches is in black color. So the reason I'm just doing is I'm going to add a fill which is going to be sitting on the bottom here, and this particular layer would be black, and then I'm going to put this scratches layer and reduce the opacity of that just to keep it very low, and then bring this on top of it, putting this as a add blending mode. So when I do all that stuff, you could able to see this scratches will have slightly added to your model. It doesn't overwhelm the result, but somewhere it's there. Okay, that adds up the whole new look to the model. Okay, that looks good at this point of time. So let's create black plastic texture for the knobs and handles here. So right now I've got 2 layers already created. One is the paint and another one is the steel. So on top of that, I'm going to create a new fill layer, and then I'm going to choose a color there which should be slightly dark, and then I'm going to select the height and then put it to the normal blending mode so that it doesn't affect our previous layers bump. So I'll be duplicating this layer, and then I'm going to slightly make it light and then make it rough. Okay, so the layer which is on the top will have a black mask here, and in the black mask I'll add one generator and another one as a fill. So the first one is going to be the fill, and I'm going to add the same scratches texture, and I'm going to repeat it at least 10 times so that I can get that high frequency bump. And the next thing is I'm going to add a generator on top of it, where I'm going to add the metal edges there. You can inverse this as per the requirement, and then you can start adding the blending mode of linear dodge or so. And let me just select the color of this layer to something like red so that I could see what's really happening with my layers. So we have one is the metal edge wear, which is having certain controls. You can check on them, but here I'm not looking. Mainly this is where the whole texture will show up, so you can just play with the values, and then once that is there, you can also put the scratches on top of it. Scratches also has options like thickness, blur, and all that stuff. Once that is done, I'm going to select the color of this and then put it that to the black. I should be able to see that nice black colors. Okay, like that. So we have these 2 layers. So I'm going to select these 2 layers, and I'm pressing Ctrl G, and then let's name this as black plastic, and I'm going to add a layer mask. Okay, and in layer mask I'm going to choose a paint layer, and I'll be choosing the paint fill, and I'm going to just use this option and then just click over this objects where you're expecting the plastic to be working. Okay, and once that is done, you could able to see the plastic has been applied on the model. So let's add a metal effect to this audio tuner. So I'm going to search for this aluminum brushed material and just drop it on top of it. It has got some brushed effect. It looks like that. Again, it's based on the textures what we have there. So you can select that, and then you could see it's a UV projection. Maybe you can choose a triplanar projection like that, or you can try spherical projection as well. So let me keep it a triplanar and that keep it simple as possible. Now I'm going to add a new layer on top of it. It should be of again in height. I don't want it to affecting the taking things from the bottom. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to choose some color there which should be sort of dirt color, and I'm going to add a layer mask here, and in that I'm going to choose a generator, and then we have different types of generators here. So you can try using this metal edge, or this should be fine, or maybe I can choose the dirt one maybe. Yeah, that adds the dirt and the gaps here and on the bottom. And now I'm going to select these two layers and then press Ctrl G to group, and then name this as metal group. And I'm going to add a layer mask for this, and in the layer mask I'm going to choose the paint layer and then choose the polygon fill tool and then just fill that to this model here. So that gives up this nice layer. Now I'm going to select the group, and then we got this layer, which is okay, this layer. I'm going to reduce the opacity of this layer just like that. Okay, I think it's affecting the base color, it's not affecting the overall, it's generally this dirt has got something. Let's say if I'm reducing this, okay, in the underlying layers like roughness, this layer is actually behaving something weird, so that's a problem. So let me select this layer and then just choose that for this attribute, and then just play with that. Okay, for this handle I just wanted to give a color, so I'll just go down to this paint layer group, and here I'm going to add a new paint layer. Okay, so this is going to be a new paint layer, and I just wanted only the color, and then I can choose any of these colors here to be painted. I'm going to use this polygon fill, and then just I think I need just to pick it from here rather, and then just click it there, and then once that is done, you get that nice red paint coming over top of this. For the text and the logo part, I have to go to the Photoshop, and I've just made a mask here. So you should be able to see I've created some text placed over this design, and this image is going to work as mask in the Substance Painter. So I've got this image here, so I'm just dragging that into my project, and I'm going to use this as a texture for the project, and then just import it. So in the paint layer where we have painted all this stuff, so I'm going to create a new fill layer, and I'm going to give it a nice fluorescent color. Okay, and this layer will have a mask, so I'll be choosing a black mask, and then I'm going to add a fill. In the fill I'm going to add this texture, and the texture will now generally paint up this object. And the good thing is, like anytime I can start playing with the colors there to keep it low and simple. I mean, not not overwhelming that colors of this picture, because too much fluorescent can make it look more too rough there. Let me take a new layer here. So I'm going to take a solid fill layer, and I'm going to choose some black color there, and we have the height. I'm going to choose a procedural texture, so I'm going to use this one, and then repeat it some 60 times, so it should be like that. I'll go to the height and then reduce the height, just keep it low like that. Okay, that should look fine. So I've got that nice texture coming on top of it. So what we are going to do is we are going to add a layer mask, and then use the paint layer, and then use the polygon fill, and then start filling that. Let me undo it, and then choose the UV shells like that. So you should be able to get that nice texture in between, gives that nice speaker effect. Let's have a look on this model in rendering. So this is how it's looking. After I've painted all the textures in Substance Painter, I would like to bring it in Maya. Right now I'm in Maya scene, the model which I've exported into the Substance Painter. So I want to import one rock model from Megascan. So it's a very triangulated mesh, but just I want to use that. So I'm going to import that into my scene. So okay, this is the model what I've got. I'm going to scale this, and I'm going to put it down like that. I would like to keep it a little bit low, I mean in terms of scale. Okay, and I will add an AI standard surface shader. Just leave it that way. And I would like to assign a displacement map for it. So we will take a very basic lighting for this. So I'll be adding one directional light. Okay, so let me take that. Okay, and also we'll be taking one sky dome light. I would like to put the exposure to 0.15, and for this I would like to put an exposure value of 10. And I'll also select this model, just slightly scale this model, and then just place it over here. Maybe I can slightly rotate it and move it there. I will also set up a new camera, so I'll go for the camera view. I'll put a 80 mm focal length, and then in the render settings you can generally set up a 960 540 should be okay. This is not really important right now, so I'm just placing that way, and I would like to keep slight angle like that. Okay, I will select the camera and I will lock the camera so that it does not move accidentally like that. So let me select the shader and go to the displacement map and browse the displacement map what we have got with that. So I'll be loading that from my location, and I have scaled down the texture to 4K. So I'll be using 4K displacement map. It's a 32-bit displacement. So let me just put it for a render. I'll select the light and exposure value of 2. I'll just start playing with the exposure there. 2 is okay at this point. I select the model. Okay, and then we can use the mesh smooth. Okay, that just softens this model. And I'll go to the shape node, Arnold, and I'll be enabling the catalog subdivision of 2 there. And then I'll use the auto bump feature also on, and then render this just to get that nice surface. I'll scale down the iterations to 1, just want to keep it low. And also my model, let's put it to 0 and see if I'm getting any difference. So I'll be selecting the camera here. I will unlock the camera because I just want to change the camera view slightly. I just wanted it to be from slightly low angle like that. And I would like to open the hyper shade. So before going into that, let me select the shader and then name this as rock shader. Okay, so open hyper shade and then bring that rock shader down. I'll just bring up the 2D texture file node and then browse the 4K albedo map, and then I'm going to use a color correction and desaturate this color correction of this image. So I'll take AI color correct tool and then drop this file into the input. Okay, now connect this to the base color like that. Okay, so let me just render it again. Okay, I'll just go to the saturation and put the saturation value to 0.5. That just makes it more desaturated. I'll select the rock shader and then add a normal map to it. So I have again scaled down the normal map to 4K. It's a 8K map from the Megascan. So I'm going to assign this into the bump map and then change the bump type to tangent space normal. Okay, just store that image and then render it. This should add some texture to the whole model there. So that adds that nice details. I'm going to select this model and slightly rotate this model. And then switch back to the camera view and then re-render it again. So that gives up that nice rock texture. You can keep exploring the camera angle if you want to show. I have set this camera view, and this is basic shader, and for this I've just tweaked certain attributes. The color is basically connected with the AI color correct, and I just tweaked a little bit of contrast here. And once I did that, I got some dark shade here. Not only that, I have actually, if you could see, the contrast value is 1. So let me put that to a selected region. So this is how the image was looking. So I just changed it to 1.4 contrast, and then you should able to see here we have the roughness attribute, where we can reduce that and then make it look glossy. So let me switch off that, and you should able to see the total rock get that shine. You can see how the shine is basically in the specular mapping, and you could explore the glossiness here just by changing the IOR value. So I'm just putting the IOR value of 1.5 or 1.8. So I got this sort of texture. Okay. But before going into that, let me just remove the specularity, and let's go to this color correction and then just put the contrast value like that. I'll just open the hyper shade and then bring up the shader. Okay, so let me just take a color correction node. And then let's have a look on the way this image is looking up. Okay, this is how this image is looking. So you can just explore the saturation values. Okay, that's completely black and white, and this is fully saturated. And you can also increase the contrast value. So contrast value is making it quite sharp. You can start exploring the color ranges also, but I'm pretty okay with these colors right now. So once that is done, you have the specular color. Okay, specular color is basically giving me the shine. So let me put the weight on, and then this is the shine what we have. Breaking up specular highlight can add more character to it. So we can do one thing, just connect any 3D texture. It will generally will not consider the UVs. So that's one thing. And then when I render, you should be able to see that specularity is sort of broken. And then you should be able to see that shine. So let me bring up the rock, and then you should be able to see this nice shine on the rock. Okay, and I'm doing only for the sake of, okay, we want some shine, so I can increase the value of this to give that more shine to the rock. And that's pretty it's a choice of the specularity. Okay, so that's a shine on the rock. And I also did one thing, that in the bump map I've added the solid fractal texture, and maybe I can just select a particular region and then start working on the ratio. That adds that nice roughness to the stone. So I've added that extra detail on top of it. And bump value 0 is like that, and 1 is like that. I'll just keep it half the way for this. Okay. The next thing is I would like to add texture to this asset. So we have the color. So I'm going to take that from here and browse the image. So I'll be picking the base color. Okay, and I will take the metalness map or metallic map. So I think I will just do that in the hyper shade. So bring up the shader here. I'll be taking the 2D texture file and then color correct node. I'm going to connect that, and then I'll be taking the red channel and connect it to the metalness there. Okay, and I'm going to browse the metallic texture. So wherever it is white, it is metallic there. Okay, you can always increase the exposure and then make it more metallic. And we have I'll be duplicating this shading network, and I'll be taking the roughness attribute, or sorry, roughness texture here, and I'm going to connect this one, maybe the red channel. It's a gray image, so I can take any of the channels. So I can take the red channel and connect it to the specular roughness there. Okay, then I'm going to connect, let me just duplicate this. I think I'll duplicate this one, and browse the height map. I'm going to use that in the bump. I'll go to the geometry and then drop that into the bump map. I'll take a bump value of 0.1, and I'll be choosing this image which has been connected to. I'll increase the add value slightly, the roughness map, and then let's have a look on this result. So you get this output once you have assigned the shader. So as I increase this value, it becomes more rough and rough. You can also play with the contrast value to make a clear difference between those two elements. Have a look on the specular image of that output. Okay, so once that is done, you can generally set up for the render passes and comp it in post-production. So I would like to set up some OpenEXR images and comp it in the After Effects software. I have three lights here. One is the sky dome light. I've just kept it for the ambient light, ambient blue light. So I'm going to select that sky dome light here, and I'm going to name it first. So I'll be naming that in the outliner. So let's name this as ambient fill. Okay, and I'll just go down to the AOV light group. It is default right now. So I'll just type AMB, just telling that it's ambient light, and I'll hide that for time being, and then bring up this light and then render up. So this is going to be the key light here. So let me name this as key light. Okay, and I'll go to the AOV group, and then here I'm going to name it as key, and then I'll just hide that and bring up this one. This light is going to be the fill light. So let's name this as fill light, and then in AOV group let's name this as fill. Okay, now let me just go to the render settings and then go to the AOV sections, and then we have this passes, okay, which I've created, which are already there. So let me select few of them from here. So if you could see, there is a pass called specular pass. Okay, so I'll just go to the add custom and then type specular, okay, underscore AMB, and just add it like that. So it's a pass created with the suffix of AMB. Let me just render it, and then just go here and search for the specular pass of AMB. Okay, it's not showing up much, and let me see why is that. The light is off. Let's bring it on, and then let me select the light, and the specular influence of that is 0.5 only. So let's see what is the specular ambient is going to look like. Okay, I should be able to see that is going to look like that. Okay, so that's a separation of that specular pass from here. So I'll be also bringing up the diffuse pass for these three. So let's go for specular underscore key. Okay, this key is given from the AOV naming. If you remember, in the light in AOV I have given that, so that is suffix. Okay, so again I'll go to the custom pass there, or custom AOV, and it should be specular underscore fill. Okay, so I've got these 3 passes there, and let me just hit render, and then you should able to see the key lights specularity, fill lights specular, ambient line specular are rendered separately. So very similarly, I'll bring on the diffuse pass, add custom diffuse underscore AMB, diffuse underscore key, diffuse underscore fill. Okay, let's check the render again. Let's check the key light diffuse pass, key light fill, sorry, diffuse fill, diffuse ambient. So those are the important passes what I have for the lights. And let me check if any pass I would like to use it here. Let's bring the Z depth pass. Okay, and we don't have transmission actually, we don't have triple S. I'll also take the indirect lighting here. So I'll be selecting the key light here. We have the indirect lighting contribution from it. If I increase that number, the bounce light will be more stronger, and you could check the indirect lighting pass there. Okay, that's the bounce light what we are getting here. Okay, so I just purposefully kept a very strong bounce light for this. And we can also go for ID pass. Let me see if the ID pass is going to help us. Generally we use a different method, that is we do apply some RGB mats for color correcting certain things. There is a default ID pass which you can use for selecting a particular object on the whole. So that's how you can do the mat here. So once you have done that, you can generally go ahead for the rendering. Okay, so I'm not using the render method. Okay, here we have render layers, but it's not visible, and the reason is generally render layer concept is completely different in Arnold. So you can go to the settings and preferences and then use the classic rendering method. So preferred render setup, legacy render layers, I can use that. It will be on next time when I launch Maya. Then you should be able to see the traditional render layers here. If not, you can generally go with this render setup, which is basically used for Arnold itself. So I've got this image. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to render it, but before going into that, you should go to the render settings here, and you should able to choose the EXR format for the final output, and also you should able to pick the perspective camera and then set up the size, and you can increase the camera anti-aliasing value to 5. I'll put a diffuse of 4 and 4, or maybe 3 and 3. That should be enough. I use auto bump and triple S. There's no triple S, so I'm not going to use it. Here, one thing I should go to AOVs and then select driver. That brings up the attribute editor. And then you need to enable this option called merge AOVs. Now what that actually does is it brings all that elements into one image. If not, every pass will be rendered as separate image. So that's very important setting. And it is going to render one single frame, and it is perspective 1. So don't go for batch rendering. Preferably you can just go with this method, that which is your classic render view window. Go there, go to the render sequence option, select the batch camera 1, and then say render camera sequence. So rendering is done. So I'll be opening up the image in After Effects. I've rendered a OpenEXR format. So let's do some comping in the After Effects. I brought this image in the After Effects here. I just drag and drop, and you should be able to see the result here. So as all the layers are in passes, so I'm going to use some of the filters here. That is, one is the extractor. So I'll be using that one. And then I need to just choose any of this passes here. So diffuse ambient is what I want here. but it's looking pretty dark. For that I have to use in utility section color profile converter. Use that, and you need to just linearize the input color, and then you get the ambient here. So once you have picked that, you can from now work easily. So I'm going to duplicate this, and then I'm going to choose the diffuse fill, which is a new layer. So if I select this particular layer and let's say use the pen tool for masking, it's showing no effect here in the mask section. You have different options, and nothing is going to work here for your layer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new solid layer, or you need to take a image. So I'm going to take a new solid layer, which is going to be the white. Okay, and I'm going to take a new solid, which is going to be the black. Okay, and I'm going to select this white layer. I'm going to use the pen tool, and I'm going to just put a mask there like that, and I'm going to apply the feather to this, so you get that fading effect there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these two layers, and I'm going to pre-compose them as a mask. Okay, so once that layer is pre-composed, you can select layer, track matte, and then you can just say luma matte, and then you should be able to see that lighting information here. And on top of that, you can use tools like curves. Okay, I'm using curves here. I'm dropping that on this model, and I can generally make it more bright if I wanted, and then I can start exploring the colors. Like I want more bluish color like that. Okay, so I got that nice color there, and it's because of the pre-comp layer which is sitting on top of that. I'm going to duplicate this layer. Okay, and I'm going to put it on the top, and I will choose the key light here. Okay, every time you're taking a layer, this layer will be adding with a blending mode, and I'll be taking the screen blending mode, so that light shows up there. Okay, and this particular light has got some color correction copied, so I'm going to select that, reset, and then I'll be taking a red channel and just bring up that warmth here. You can reduce the blue channel and generally make it more warm if you want it. So you can also add filters like glow. So I'll be taking the glow on specular rather taking it on the diffuse pass. So I'm duplicating that. Just a minute. I'll copy this. I'll be duplicating that, and this track matte should be off. Okay, and I'll be taking the specular ambient, and the blending mode should be screen. So I'm going to duplicate that. Again, this is constantly taking the track matte because I've copied that layer from there. This time I'm going to take a specular fill, and I'm going to duplicate it, and then take the key light. So all that passes have come here, and this key light which we have here, I'll be taking the blue channel and reduce that blue, and then now let's add the glow and just put on top of that. Okay, so you can increase the threshold and then reduce the intensity, just adds that nice volume to the overall picture. Okay, so you have different images. So I'm going to take one of the image. Maybe I'll take the image what I have. I'm not very much, I just got a random image. I just wanted to put it there, and I'll be using hue saturation and then desaturate this picture. Okay, and you can also play with the exposure. So I'll be taking the color correction exposure there, put it there, and reduce the exposure and just put it low as much as possible, just to keep it balanced. You can add more effects on top of it. Maybe I can add a glow. For that I'm going to take a new solid layer, and I'm going to take some nice warm color there, and I'm going to take a pen tool or maybe the ellipse tool and then just drag it there, and I'm going to increase the feather, and that adds up that glow. Let's scale that and increase the glow there, so that adds that nice light volume effect from there. And you can keep on exploring on different possibilities there to get overall look and feel of what you are maybe expecting on top of your model.